Welcome back to Double Dipping. Today I'm going to have a little double dip with the formidable Asma Khan. You may know her from Netflix's Chef's Table, where she was the first British chef to be featured on the show. She was actually on season 7 of the podcast, and I'm so excited to be catching back up with her. She's a true inspiration, and I really can't wait to hear what she has been up to. Let's go. We met remotely.
Yeah.
We were on Zoom.
Yes.
And
COVID.
I was actually listening back to the conversation and I started crying because I don't know if you remember, it was such a beautiful chat between us and we were kind of,
thank you.
Lovely. Oh my gosh, look at this.
This is the best kind of interruption food.
Yeah,
Yes.
I only like to be interrupted when there's food being put on the table. Oh wow, thank you so much. Thanks. Lovely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what we got here? We got chili cheese toasty.
Chili cheese toasty, and this is something that we don't always have on the menu. These are pulkis, they're lentil fritters. This is a fresh chutney we make with garlic, coriander, and chilies. That's our kind of slow cooked tamarind chutney. Tomato chutney, the Bengali tomato chutney, the same green chutney. And
oh my gosh.
Just, you keep eating.
Oh, I'm good. And you're going to talk.
Yeah.
I need to have a quick try.
So why did you cry?
You were talking quite emotionally about culture and life growing up, particularly sort of where you were coming from. And you spoke so beautifully about, and this is what I think we connected on because of sort of my Iranian heritage and the culture of being a woman.
Yes.
That we're always kind of a bit, we always come second, we always come last.
Always.
And you were talking about things like, not just in terms of communication in family, but the idea of a woman's place in the home.
Yeah.
The fact that women were served last at the table.
Yeah.
And it was a really open conversation, and I really appreciated that you had never met me before, but you were sort of so open with your thoughts. And I guess kind of what you stand for, particularly with running a restaurant, is that you champion women.
Yeah.
Not many people do that in the way that you do. Why has that been so important?
I think that if you are in a position of strength and power, it becomes almost a duty to pull others up on the stage. You do not have a right to be on stage with a spotlight on you if you do not bring other people on. And I think that sadly, for a long time, successful women have always seen success in male terms, which essentially means I'm going to be combative, I'm going to be competitive, and I am not going to show a soft side. So many of my friends in all kinds of, different professions, from banking to being in accounts or even, working on the floor in the share market, they found female bosses to be unsympathetic. The moment your child is sick, they're eye rolling that I need to go to nursery to pick them up. And yes, I understand that maybe they crawled and fought it to make it there. Well, my attitude is different. If I have crawled and I have been through fire and I've had to go through hurdles which have damaged me and broken me, and I have still been able to rise and I have made it, I'll get more pleasure from knowing that someone else is going through this. I'm clearing the pathways for women to the extent that I also feel that I am the girl who is not born yet. I'm fighting for her. I will not be there when she comes. I'm sowing a harvest I will not reap. But every day I live one day less, I will not see the girl's face. She will know my name. This is very important for me because this is not my kind of, I don't think I'm very different from other people, but I've had a lot more success than a lot of other people. And I've had incredible things happen to me, opportunities, and I don't go through this thing of an imposter syndrome that, maybe I don't deserve it. I absolutely deserve it because...
Love that.
No, I absolutely deserve this because I'm using this opportunity. This is every opportunity that comes to me, I grab because I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to be that face that someone will see and think, oh, she looks like me. Or, maybe my mom who wants to be a painter, she's my mom's age, I can do this. It's beyond generations. It's beyond even just about men and women. Some of my greatest allies have been men who are gay. and especially for the South Asian community, where they are really suffering from not being able to come out because of religious, cultural, just expectations of, you are the blessed boy, you must be perfect. And if the family thinks this person is not conforming to what they think is right, there's this sense of betrayal. And so anyone who's marginalized is someone who I care about. I don't want to be hanging around with those who are all powerful. In my opinion, pretty much mediocre, mainly men, who are these very mediocre people who have made it. You don't need to have a scandal over your name, and people say, "Oh, this person doesn't turn out to be such a good person." The sense of being all powerful, indifferent to the feelings of others who you see as weaker than you. All of this is not me. I so yeah, I care about women not because it's the right thing to do or because this is a trendy thing. This has been forever.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, from the time that I was born, I understood that if my birth was lamented and everyone felt, oh, better luck next time to my parents and made my parents feel my mother had failed by giving birth to me, there was a burning flame inside me. I will make sure the world knows my name and the earth will tremble when I walk. And that's what I'm doing.
You are successful than a lot of other people.
Yeah.
But I think what I love about what you do is that you don't just stop. You keep going. I feel like there's success, correct me if I'm wrong, success for you is not a destination. You're just going to keep doing better, doing more. But obviously a lot of people know you from Chef's Table.
Yeah. First British chef.
First British chef, full stop. When they filmed, you were actually in Kingly Court. That was the location of Darjeeling Express. And I feel like something else, you've also been on a bit of a journey as well over the past few years, is that you've kind of moved around London for various reasons.
Yes.
And we're now back in Kingly Court.
Yeah.
Different unit, so to speak. That must have been quite an interesting few years for you, no?
It was, and you came to Covent Garden. It was a beautiful place.
That was stunning.
It saved us from having to be locked into this place because Soho was impossible to navigate because everyone was eating on the street. And very difficult times, but I also feel in some ways it's a really important lesson for all of us. You're never too big, you're never too great, and you're never too famous to come back to where you started. Yes, it's a bigger unit and it's double the capacity and all of that. But I came back to a location where I started. I don't feel I have to perform for others. I run a different race. And that is very important for me. I'm only accountable to myself. Thank God I don't have a business partner. Thank God I don't have an investor. I don't have to account to anybody. I don't have shareholders. And I go by instinct. And maybe, I'm lucky that everything worked out. But yeah, you're right. It's been a real journey. But this is resilience that I see more in women. We do not break. We bend, but we do not break. When the storm comes, we will go way down, but we will absolutely rise because there is I think, an unspoken strength. We don't talk about this because then we'd be like men. Women don't say how incredible they are. I try to live a very open life in the public eye, not because I want people to like me and follow me. It's nice if they do, but I want people to come across me and think that she's someone very ordinary doing something extraordinary, and understand that they also have it in them. This is very important because, I know this is, a short conversation. I feel like I can talk to you forever. But I do want to say this. My big shock when I was in my 40s, I went to 3 men in my bank asking for £10,000 to open a tea shop at the bottom of my house. A dry cleaner had closed. They laughed at me and said, what a lovely hobby, Mrs. Khan. Call us to your house for tea. It came out. I never carry an umbrella because I'm so disorganized. It was bloody raining. And in that pouring rain, I was crying. And I swore to my God. I said, Allah, I will be that name, that woman whose name I could not take. Because when they told me, oh, you're in your 40s, you have no experience, I was told to stay in my lane. I was told I wasn't allowed to change lanes. I was in my 40s, stay in my lane. That day, I no idea where I was going to go, what I was going to do. I swore that I would become that person whose name any woman could take. Not just only for a lease or for money or for anything. In a room, she could take my name, and even now, I know this. I will be dead, but a woman can say my name. If she wants to open a restaurant, she wants a lease, she wants to do something in her 40s, and everyone says, this is not, you can't do this. I had to succeed
Yeah.
for that woman who I will never meet, for that girl who's not born yet. I have to succeed for that. This is why I cannot fail, because I'm driven not by my own personal ambition. I'm actually extremely disorganized. I'm very untidy. If anyone gave me a choice, I said, you want to sleep all day? Oh, yes. You want a breakfast in bed? Give it to me.
Well, this is the real Asma Khan.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am a nightmare to live with. I have things everywhere. My husband is requires a medal. You know, he keeps telling me you can carbon date your clothes depending on how you throw them in the entire room. Yeah, I'm all of that. But you know, I'm also something else as well. You know, being tidy is overrated.
Where does the drive come from then? It comes from trying to change the status quo of women and I guess paving that way then for future generations, would you say?
Yeah, it's really this desire, you know, to be that light for someone in their dark days. And the more, this is why I'm happy to speak to you, because I know you're following and you have a lot of all kinds of people, but you do have a lot of women following you. And, you know, congratulations on becoming a mother. So I'm sure that, you know, women who have just become mothers, where your life stops. Most people cannot afford childcare. Everything stops. And then you restart.
Yeah.
Before you know it in your 40s. I want those women who are listening to me now to understand there is absolutely incredible light at the end of your tunnel. If you think your career has now stopped because you've had a child, this is a great gift. You got a child. Enjoy the child. Do not worry. I had 2 children and I started something new. So I just want people to be unafraid, to understand, and even for men, you know, just do not think that you have to follow a path because that's what you studied, that's what you trained for, that's what all your friends are doing. You know, am I going to look odd if I decide that I want to make puppets and become a puppeteer? No, you're going to be great. You know, it's important that you do not try to be what other people think you should be. They put labels on you and they put you into boxes. Don't accept it.
I need you on the end of a phone most days when I'm sort of waking up and I'm like, I hate this, I hate that, I'm stressed, I'm whatever. I feel like I need a little Asma Khan sort of like affirmation app. That's what we can do.
Yes.
We can do a little Asma Khan affirmation app. Obviously, the nature of this this show is called double dipping, and I
Yes.
just realised actually I'm doing lots of little dips.
Yeah, but
and
you're not
things.
having this.
No, I'm going to. I'm just.
You first ask your question, then you go into the cheese.
Okay.
And
Well, I wanted to know what your thoughts were on double dipping. How do you feel about double dipping?
never ever double dip, ever. Okay, this. If you do it in real life, you'll end up doing it on television, or you'll end up doing it on a show, and everyone's going to have a heart attack, and people are going to complain about how you're going to die. Everyone's going to die with disease. Yes. So purely for those people who are, you know, the police of double dipping, I think just don't do it.
Would you double dip with your family though?
Strangely enough, both my children look at expiry dates, check on things. They're very careful about health, and
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
I'm being schooled by them, and this is why I would not double dip, purely
Okay.
because both my kids are super cautious, careful, very, and yeah, I think maybe this is to being born in this country and
Yeah.
not being born in India,
Yeah.
where if there was, you know, half a spoon of ice cream, everyone will be double dipping big time. If there's 1 spoon, all the
Their
cousins.
finger.
Yeah, it's a different thing, you know, but it's a different culture. So yeah, so I don't.
The other thing that we spoke about, I think you were just about to release Amu,
Yes.
the cookbook. which was sort of this beautiful sort of dedication to your mother. And something that I love about your cooking is that, you know, it is your take, but it's also still seeped in so much tradition. How has, I mean, we're now what, sort of 3-4 years down the line now
Yes.
since the book came out. When you look back at that process, was it quite cathartic writing that book?
Yes, it was. It was also a very, very challenging time because all the walls had come down. You couldn't travel. Uh, in the kind of school and college chat group, I was reading about, friends, parents passing away. And it wasn't just this country. India got hit so badly. There was no oxygen. If you got COVID, you didn't make it because there was no oxygen. So that was really frightening because, you know, at that time as well, I can speak about it now. We discovered my brother had stage 4 cancer and was unable to go to a hospital or get anything because all the hospitals were closed because of COVID. So that made it even harder. So I wrote the book at a very difficult time, but I also wrote a book with a lot of optimism. I imagined that this book would come out, that my mother would see it, my brother would see it, and that I was really celebrating. So it didn't absolutely taint the book. I spoke about the joys of what my family was as something that was current. Deep down inside, something very terrible was happening in my family, but I did not let that come through to the book. And the book is done really well. So many people have cooked from it. And now, in very soon, my third book is coming out.
Amazing.
And I think that every book I've written at a different stage in my life. Ammu was probably the most difficult time in my life. Monsoon, I'm writing where my children are older. I now have this point in my life. I'm 55. And I feel, the great joy of sharing food and cooking. It's a gorgeous book. It feels like kind of jewelry, it's really nice.
Okay.
And very exciting recipes in there, including, how to cook with watermelon.
Ooh.
There's a curry that we make with watermelon. And yeah, so it's not your kind of standard things like, that people think is Indian food.
Yeah.
I've really kind of picked things that excite me, interesting me, but also, where there's abundance of flavor and this kind of layering it in different, how you combine different things and eat together.
Amazing.
And, and also I'm very aware now, and maybe this is just age, but that, the moment you see a food plate in front of you, people take out their phone and take a picture. And forget the religion. No one says grace and no one gives thanks. To the person cooking it, to the farmer. We've lost that. They become consumers. So Monsoon really celebrates how wonderful it is to eat, how wonderful it is to cook, but also how seasons and everything affects who you are, what you eat. So that way, this is a different book. But yeah, Ammu was a difficult time, but so glad I wrote that book, so glad the book was so beautiful, and that people are cooking from it and people feel that connection. Even though, maybe their mothers didn't cook and they didn't have the same relationship with their mother. But there is something, your Ammu doesn't have to be your mother. There's a female force in your life, the woman you hang out with, the one you go to when you're down. And everyone has that one person in their life. I'm lucky it was a person who's my friend from the day I was born. I always say, I heard her heartbeat before I saw her face.
It's true.
And, so there's thing that, there's a closeness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I love writing cookbooks.
I think it's really key what you said, though. I think the book is very much about this idea of connection. And also, this idea that, this connection over food, which, as you know, is what I'm all about. And it's a language.
Yeah.
And kind of, back to what you were talking about with your childhood, is that there may not have been communication in sort of the obvious sense, but there was a communication through food.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I think that's probably what you and I really bond over, and I think understand each other on.
Absolutely. And
because that was how I was raised as well.
Nobody, when I came to this country first time and I saw a family that was white and where the mother hugged the daughter and said, I love you, I was like, wow, parents tell their children they love them. I'd never, ever heard my mother.
That,
She cooked for me. She sat and watched me eat. But she never put her arm around me. I mean, let alone kiss my forehead and say she loved me. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I know, Iranian culture, so many of our cultures, we don't have this. And I think that I probably mean as the same pattern as my mother. I think I could have done more with my kids. You must hug and kiss your child a lot. And
I
keep
think I
telling,
hug and kiss him. What, is there such a thing as too much?
no, do it too much, because I didn't. And I
Yeah.
think I still see motherhood in the same way that
Yeah.
I saw how Ammu was to me. And even though I felt it was something that I wish she had loved me more and communicated that, but she cooked for me, and that is that language of love I understood.
Yeah.
And I am where I am today because of her.
We're going to finish off a bit light-heartedly.
Yes.
What's a dish that has changed your life?
Biryani. Also, the first time I actually saw a biryani being opened was my sister's wedding. I was in my teens. And normally you would never see biryani, pots this size being opened, because you're usually in a guest and you're sitting in, somewhere else. I had to go because my mom said, go and get the biryani out, because, the main
Yeah,
guests
yeah,
had
yeah.
sat down. And when that biryani was opened by Haji Saab, who's our old cook, something hit me really hard. And he put some grains of rice on my palm and said, this rice, he told me, this is the blessing of Allah. This is your destiny. This will make you someone huge and great. Because I stood next to her and said, wow, this is incredible, this is incredible. So he just put a few grains on my hand. And I remember eating the grains, walking back and thinking, wow, this is just an amazing dish. No idea how to make it, nothing. I am the last in our entire clan who makes that same biryani.
Really?
Haji Saab taught me. I'm trying to teach my son this. If I get hit by a bus, it dies with me. It is that, even though it was not a meal, it was a moment of panic in the kitchen with me wearing lots of jewelry and very
my
fancy
God.
clothes. I was sent into the kitchen to tell them to hurry up. I arrived when the biryani was being opened. And this is why I opened the biryani. So it had something in my soul. Even though at that time I was absolutely not interested. I only wanted to eat the biryani. I didn't want to make it. Every time I make it, I say a prayer for his soul. Say a prayer for Haji Saab, because he taught me. But he taught me with a kind of magical laughter, so much affection, and just showing me, making me touch things. But by that time, he was almost lost his eyesight. So that meal, my sister's wedding meal, I was just obsessed looking at the biryani, because I suddenly had never seen it being opened and cut through. That's why we do it, because we want people to understand this is heritage.
Yes.
This is, also culture going back centuries. I present you a dish that is not just something that is easy to make, or just, I'm not trying to impress you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you the story of who
Yeah.
my people are.
What would be your desert island meal? The biryani.
Not necessarily biryani. It would be paratha.
Okay.
It would be paratha and omelette.
Okay.
That's my kind of absolute comfort food. It's something that in every moment where I've been very down, I made it for myself. It's something that my son makes for me.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
also my mother. She no longer can cook like she could before. So somehow I always know that whatever happens, this is always there.
It's like a hug.
It's like a hug.
It's home.
And also I'm surrounded by people who know this is my comfort food,
Yeah.
who will make it for me, who will give it to me, and that's what it is. Paratha
Yeah.
and omelette.
I love that. You know what? Sometimes it's the simple things. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it comes out also. I think memories.
Yeah. 100%.
Memories of having this and then being able to move on and recovering from what you were going through. That meal becomes almost like an anchor in the storm. That meal reminds you that you've had meals like this before, and every time you've survived.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's more
So
than
that
just,
means you're going to survive on the desert island with your omelette and your paratha.
yes, I will.
Asma, you know how much I love chatting with you. It's been 3 years since we first sat down and had a conversation, and I really enjoy you being in my life because I find you incredibly inspirational.
Thank you.
And just keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.